right. I'm super happy that you guys are here. We are, what are we? We're the Make It a Great Day movement. We are the suicide prevention show. We are super happy. We are super energetic. And this is super fun. Why? Because we believe suicide is serious. And suicide prevention is seriously fun, because if you are enjoying your life, if you are engaged in your life, if you are surrounded by people who are enjoying and engaging their life, you're suicide proof, my friend. And speaking of suicide proof, we are about to interview Mark Bowness. Mark and I met under some really unusual circumstances, and simply because he's a wonderful guy, he said yes when I said, can I interview you for this summit? So without further ado, I'm going to introduce Mark. Actually, Mark, I cannot unmute you. Welcome to Tech. So you unmute yourself. There we go. Mark, I'd love for you to introduce yourself, because your story is not something I think they're going to believe if I say it.
Well, thank you so much for having me here, and thank you so much for the work that you do. The reason that I wanted to jump onto this and be a part of this is because suicide has been such an important part of my life in terms of actually pivoting my life. So I love the work that you do, and it's great to be here. So yes, my name is Mark Bowness, and let's start at the beginning without going too far back. I'm one of 6 children, brought up in the UK, now living in Australia. And from a young age, I was brought up in the church environment. So we went to church every Sunday morning, which was great, a beautiful community. But the struggle was, from a very young age, I always knew that I was gay. Now, my sexuality and my religion were in conflict, right? I really struggled internally with that. And so I actually studied theology as an undergraduate degree. I got married to a lady. I believe that God could heal me. I believe that I could love somebody irrespective of their outside bits, shall we say. And I ran a Christian ministry, and I was speaking in churches, and I ran a youth magazine and doing all this awesome stuff. However, the inevitable happened and my marriage ended. And so the night that my wife walked out, I saw my future as this dark place that I didn't want to walk into. And I Googled most quickest and painless way to die. And that night I attempted to take my own life. And the next day I woke up in hospital, and I saw my future as this blank canvas. It was the most, it sounds ironic to share this. And I say this all the time, but it was the most incredible moment for me. Like, I'll never encourage anybody to go through the process, but it made me realize that life is precious, that it's a gift, that I'd lived a life that everybody else had told me how to live and how I should live it. And all that went in that instant. And then I came up with a crazy idea. I leased a 200-acre island in Fiji that had nothing on it, invited the world to become tribe members. I launched a global business 3 months after my suicide attempt, because I thought, well, if I launched this business and it went bankrupt, it doesn't matter, because I'm still here. There's nothing that was stopping me. And it was crazy. It became a TV show in 3 countries. It was actually filmed and became a TV show. It appeared in 200 media outlets. And that would never have happened if I, yes, attempted to take my own life. But the key there is the mentality that I had as a result of that situation. I made a decision, exactly what it is that you do, to make every single day great, and to appreciate that I'm here on planet Earth once, and I can create whatever I want with that life. So, long introduction, but I wanted to give the full story there.
That's probably the shortest journey through what is essentially the story arc. How bad did it get? When did you crash and burn? What is your thrive story? That was the amazingly condensed version of what I take 3 days to teach at my events. I'm just saying, that was great. Okay. You were a husband, someone in the ministry. You had an identity.
Mm.
And it all fell apart because it wasn't based on authenticity. It wasn't based on who you were. It was based on other people's expectations.
Mm.
That's what I'm hearing. So you correct me anytime that you think I've gone off the rails, okay?
No, that's absolutely what happened. Yeah.
Most of the people I work with at my events, I just did a boot camp on what's in the way of your messaging and what's in the way of your money.
Mm.
And what we came up with at the end was that it's all about pop. It's all about when we give our power to other people, especially other people's opinions, expectations, or judgments. And actually, we reversed that. We put it judgments, opinions, and expectations, and we called it an elephant whose name is Joe.
Mm.
Okay. Other people's judgments, opinions, and expectations.
Mm.
And when you woke up in the hospital, all of that was gone.
It was an incredible moment because it was all that pressure, all the expectations, all the internal endless dialogue. I just gave it all up, and I just said, look, to myself, I'm going to live life my way now. Like, I really am going to live what I feel that I'm here for. And, you know, in terms of my story, that it's crazy, isn't it? That the most difficult thing, and I think this is important for everybody that goes through this experience, the most difficult thing for me was to come out to myself. Like coming out to my parents or friends or family, that was irrelevant. It was actually the accepting who I truly am in here that was key.
I think you hit upon the key of everything right now. The first piece is awareness. And you were aware at a very early age that you did not fit this mold that everybody said was the only way to be. So you were aware. So awareness is often followed by attitude. What do we believe about that? And then what are the actions we take? And you took the exact same actions that I did, Mark, which is let's just go into hiding and pretend to be what other people expect us to be. My exit from that was not as dramatic as yours, but it did involve the ending of a marriage. So some of us have to accept the fact, and then the final piece is acceptance, which is where you just ended up, that we've been living a life based on other people's judgments, opinions, and expectations. Two things happened for me. One is that I realized that if I didn't make a change, I was going to get to the end of my life never having lived my life. It would have been a life based on other people's judgments, opinions, and expectations. But Mark, I have to ask, because I know your story. I mean, I know about Fiji and about the fact that you gave, after you developed this island with your tribe, you gave it back to the people who actually own the property. But what the heck were you thinking? I mean, you just came out of the hospital. I guess I'm going to say that maybe like this old song, you had nothing left to lose.
Absolutely. Well, and again, the context was that, to reiterate that, obviously I was married at the time. My Christian work was my money. It was my income. My community was the church community. Of course, as soon as the trustees of the nonprofit organization, as soon as the church leaders knew, I was 26 years old. I was excommunicated from the church. My money was stopped. My nonprofit organization was taken from me. I had to move back to the other side of the UK to live with my parents at 26 years old. And in an environment where I didn't have friends or a community in that environment. So I had nothing. But when we make the decision to finally live the life that we were created to live. As you say, there's joy in that. And I knew that I could rapidly like work again from the ground up to start again. But I knew that I could accelerate faster because I was actually building my life based upon the DNA that I kind of was building upon and felt that I could achieve and what I wanted to do in my life rather than all these expectations from others. So yes, I came with a crazy idea and I just went all out with it because I just had this belief that I could achieve anything. If I went to rock bottom, the lowest possible place, and I think this is important because it's easy to stay at that place. It's easy to feel like have that mental thought of, well, I'm a survivor of suicide and have that label. But actually it's breaking those shackles. And so my rock bottom was the beginning of the foundation of the rest of my life.
You know, I think that's a very key point because many people are afraid of admitting that they've hit rock bottom. I mean, rock bottom for me was when I hit rock bottom, there was no place to go but up.
But isn't rock bottom a life where it might appear to the outside world, but everything is fine? That everything is fine. Maybe you've got the money, or like, you know, you're in a marriage that actually you don't like being in. Rock bottom can be what others perceive as the top, but inside you're crumbling. When you actually rock bottom, in terms of my suicide attempt, was actually me stripping everything bare.
Yeah.
And that was the best place to be because then I can rebuild.
There is a huge lesson here because rock bottom means that you're at the foundation, you're on solid flipping rock.
Mm.
Whereas most of my life was built on belief systems. Now I call them BS, especially limiting belief systems, you know, and anybody who's carrying extra pounds on them, LBS, limiting belief systems, that's where those extra pounds come from. But yeah, when all of that burned away. So you had nothing left to lose.
Nothing.
And you had this idea.
Mm.
So I just want to hear about this idea because I've heard the stories of after the fact. I mean, I know about that gold behind you, this double comma club. Yeah. But the moment you had the idea, there's in Yiddish, the word is chutzpah. There's a moment where you decide to go for it. What did you have to believe about yourself to go for it? To make the phone call to the Fiji Islands?
That's a great question. And so, yeah, I came up with this crazy idea. And if I connect it back to the fact that we live life once, that was my realization. That was my kind of mantra after my suicide attempt. It was, we live life once. And so that's what gave me the not just the energy, it was the launch pad to go, if this crazy idea doesn't work, then so what? So it was just fueled with anything. It was just this anything is possible moment. And so nothing, if you can stand in the face of death and accept the fact that if I take this action, I could end my life. That's actually such a, ironically, an empowering choice that you can make in your mind. So then if you survive that, then any choice or decision that you make here on planet Earth is actually an easy choice, irrespective of the outcome, right?
Okay, we call this, I have a mentor who says this is being risk averse. I think the language is confusing. I think this is being risk impervious. There is no risk at this moment because you're alive. You know, as long as I'm alive, you know, there are lots of songs that have that kind of line in it. You know, in that moment where you embrace your aliveness, Mark, what's happened since then How many people
Mm.
have you pulled along with you? How many people came to the, just physically, not
Mm.
how many people did you influence, how many people contributed, how many people physically came to the island?
So we had a website and people could pay to be a part of the project online. They decided to say what power, electricity. It was an eco island, so they were building it from scratch, and then they could visit the island. So over 5,000 people registered,
Wow.
and I think we had about just over 1,000 people visited the island.
I was gonna say the island's not that big. If all 5,000 had visited, where would you have put them?
That's right. That's right. But it was part of just building this community from scratch. And the most amazing thing I love is that out of that idea, yes, we had this eco island that we handed back to the Fijians. We invested over $1 million into the local community, which is transformational for them. But I love the fact that as a result of this idea that was in my mind that was birthed out of attempting to take my own life, we had people got married as a result of connecting. There
Oh,
were
whoa, 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 whoa,
babies.
whoa, whoa. I'm all about romance. Give me more story here.
We had, I think last count, it was 4 couples that got married as a result of this concept. In fact, my sister, uh, she she was in the UK and she was at a university, and I said, look, I need somebody that I trust to go to the island, because I was in the media all over the world, and kind of you can't manage a business on a tropical Fijian island. So I was in the UK managing the business. I said I need somebody to go to the island and manage the people coming and the accommodation. And I said, I trust you. Will you do this? And she did. And her biggest questions at the time were, are there any nightclubs? And can I take my hair
Oh,
straight?
Lacey.
Can I take my hair straighteners? Right.
Oh, yes. Well, there is that. Okay. Go.
And so, but as a result, she stayed there. She met a New Zealand guy. She's As a result, she's now living in New Zealand. She's got 3 children, all
Wow.
because of I attempted to take my own life. Isn't that incredible? That's the miraculous from the
Right.
sadness, right?
Just because this is the suicide prevention show, I'm
Mm,
going to tweak one word.
mm,
All because you survived attempting to
mm,
take your own life,
mm,
not because you tried. Because what
Beautiful.
we
Thank
know
you
by
for that.
now is
Yeah.
sometimes, actually, most of the time, the first sign that someone is at risk is
Mm,
an attempt. And
mm,
Mark, they don't all survive.
mm, mm,
And your story is incredibly inspiring. And I don't want anyone to misinterpret this as thinking that if I attempt, I'll end up with a life. Oh, the
yeah.
skies will part and the light will come down and I will be risk averse or
Mm,
risk endearing or embracing or whatever the
mm,
language is. The
mm,
reality is
mm,
that we would love to invite people into this experience of life where they
mm,
embrace life
mm.
without ever having to have the on the ledge experience.
Mm.
That you
Yes.
don't have to walk to the ledge. You don't have to be able to
Mm,
talk yourself off the ledge. You don't have to be able to survive the ledge to just make the decision
mm,
to be you, to live
mm,
life as you. I've got cards that I send out to my clients that say, be who you are. No
mm.
one else is better qualified.
Yes.
It's not the message I grew up with.
Mm.
And it sounds like it's not the message you grew up with. So, what message would you like to send to yourself if you could go back in time and write a letter
Mm.
to your 6-year-old self when you first started to read using that language, Mark? What would you say to yourself?
I think quite simply, I'd say, love yourself and be proud of who you are, because that's it. Just the whole of my life prior to that experience was was just trying to be what everybody else wanted me to be. And so much so that you're actually blinded to who you are, right? You don't even know who you are, because you're so clouded with all the expectations and, as you say, the judgments of everybody else. So biggest message is certainly just love yourself, because we do live life once.
We do live life once. For those who don't know me really well, and Mark, you and I have never had a chance to really get talk.
No.
Yeah, I've got elephants. Okay, the elephant in the room. I'm known as the elephant tamer. And one of my elephants is eclipse. This is the elephant of when you're invisible to yourself. And that's how I lived most of my life. And it was just the reality of the decision I made at a time I don't even remember, that there was something about me that wasn't quite right. There must be something wrong with me. Otherwise, bad stuff, it's my show, I could probably cuss if I wanted to, but otherwise bad stuff wouldn't be happening to me. There must be something wrong with me. It took me until I was almost 60 before I realized that that's the cry of the child. The child cannot make the adult wrong, because at a very visceral gut level, we know if they leave me, I will die. And it's true when we're that age.
Yes.
So because we can't make them wrong, we start to believe a lie. And the lie is, there must be something wrong with me. So for anybody who's listening, who has ever had a moment where you think that life is crappy because there's something wrong with you, I've got good news for you. That's a lie that you decided was true at a time you don't even remember. And the truth is, the people around you had bought into other lies before you were born. That's their stuff. The truth is, you're good enough. What I heard in your story, Mark, was that you made a decision that you were completely good enough. You were completely creative, capable, and resourceful enough to live your own life. What? All right. So the moment I decided, that was pretty much a game changer for me. So the moment that you decided, that was in a hospital. What can you say to someone that might help them avoid that hospital experience?
Yeah, great question. What would I say to somebody to help to avoid that hospital experience? It's interesting when you say about, I love what you just said about thinking that we are wrong. And as you were saying that something is wrong with me, as you were saying that, I was thinking, if we could imagine if we could do a survey of every human being on planet Earth and ask them, hands up, if you feel like you or something in your life is wrong, how many people would put their hand up, right? And therefore the question has to be, what is normal? What is our perception of what we think is normal, to then think that we are wrong against what is normal?
Okay, so yeah, my sister tells me that normal is a setting on the washing machine, and it has nothing to do with being human. I live my life and my teachings on spectrums. So at one end of the spectrum is, there must be something wrong with me. This is the cry of the child. It's where we dismiss our own opinions of who we are. On the other end of the spectrum is someone, and by the way, on this end where we dismiss our opinions, this is called a low perspective of ourselves. So it's a low energy. Low self-absorption is what I call it. On the other end, someone who's high on the self-absorption scale is someone who has the belief system that they are afraid there might be something wrong with me. And when someone is high on the self-absorption scale, if they're not the smartest person in the room, if all the ideas are not coming from them, they will shred everyone around them, because they're belief system is the fear of there might be something wrong with me. So at one end, there must be something wrong with me. And at the other end is there might be something wrong with me. And what I found is that wherever you are on the spectrum, from this place in the middle where I'm okay.
Mm.
You know, I'm not worried that there must be something wrong with me, and I'm not afraid that there might be something wrong with me. I'm okay.
Mm.
From this place in the middle, however far we go in one direction, we tend to attract people at the opposite from us to balance us.
Yeah.
So people who tend to be dismissive of their opinions will work for people who are domineering in their opinions. And I see this playing out over and over. It certainly played out in my marriages. And I do say that with an S on the end because it took me more than once to figure this out. Now, not only do I have this, there must be something wrong with me, or there might be something wrong with me, I also have a decision-making spectrum. On this side are the people who are a little more intuitive. They don't need a lot of time. They make decisions faster. Think Microsoft School of Business, you launch the product and let the consumer tell you what's wrong with it.
Yep. Yep.
And at the extreme is the person who's ready, fire, aim. That's me. On the other side are the people who need a little more time. They have to think about it. They have to ponder it. Yeah. The far extreme is analysis paralysis.
That's right.
And that's my guy, Mark. On a good day, we pull each other to the middle.
Yeah, right.
On a not so good day, it's gentlemen, take your corners. Yeah. And it's the same, I think, with this discussion about, am I dismissing my opinion, or am I domineering with my opinion? Do I think that it's, there must be something wrong with me, or am I afraid there might be something wrong with me? When you decided that there was nothing wrong with you and you came into the middle without needing anybody else around you, Mark, what you did is possibly a guidepost for everybody in the world. So just, we've got a couple more minutes. Go ahead and just share what the heck happened next.
Just on that, just briefly, because we talk about okay or not okay, and the real moment of transition for me was to abandon the okay or not okay, and to be so comfortable with being perfectly imperfect. Like, I've got my flaws, I've got my quirks, I've got my uniqueness, and as we all have. But it was actually like, when you come from the perspective of your sexuality being you, and people telling you that you are wrong. And I don't just mean simply in terms of my sexuality, but simply saying, whoever I am, whatever my quirks are, I'm very almost OCD in that everything has a place and it has to be in that place. And my partner will just leave stuff on the floor, and I just go insane because that, like, why is a jacket on the floor? But when you come to terms with, well, this is just who I am, just enjoy who you are, then you stop worrying about what is okay and what isn't okay, and what's normal and what isn't normal, and you just enjoy life. And I think that's the moment of transition in my mind for me to then taking it to the next level. So now, I to go back onto that beach, I was on this beautiful beach in Fiji in a hammock, and I was lying there thinking about the moment that I was on Google and Googled quickest painless way to die, and I realized that I Googled something negative. I didn't Google counselor, life coach, psychologist. I Googled something negative, and then I made a decision that I was actually going to sell my shares in the business, and I committed myself to helping coaches, consultants, life coaches, anybody that was set to help people to change their lives, to help them to build their tribes so that nobody ever could experience. That was the goal. If I could eradicate anybody experience what I went through, then it would all be awesomely worth it. And so now I have a Facebook group called We Build Tribes. There's 33,000 people. And I teach people.
33 and 1, because I joined.
So thank you for that. So, but empowering people who want to help people to really reach them, that's now what I dedicate my life to.
Oh yeah. What if when somebody Googles the quickest painless way to die, they actually got a help site?
Yeah.
I mean, wouldn't the world change if when we Googled our most helpless thoughts, we got this ray of light, this possibility? Because I'm a firm believer in the power of possible positive outcomes. That's the way of the advocate. That's the training course that I do. It's if you are willing to believe in the power of possible positive outcomes, if you're willing not to give up on yourself and not to quit on other people, then you're an advocate.
Yes.
And Mark, when we met, it was like, we were both in a mastermind. You popped in, you gave an introduction. I had been in once before, and I'm like, who are you? I had no clue. And I'm like, you sound like you would be fun to interview. Would you come? You're like, I can't. It's this weekend and the time zones. And I'm like, for you, I'll make an exception and we'll do it recorded. Because for everybody who's used to me doing everything live, yes, this is Memorex. I'm dating myself. You don't know Memorex probably. No.
No, sorry.
All right. So for those of you who know Memorex, you can put a comment, because we're not old. We just were paying attention. That's my theory, and I'm sticking to it. So, Mark, because you are willing to talk about it, I knew that on this show, people would be willing to listen to your message. So my commitment to you is that it's not just going to be on the Suicide Prevention Show. I'm going to pull this episode out and I'm going to post it multiple places, because the moment that you decided to be in the middle of your own life, that you decided to accept yourself, that you decided to accept reality, that my thing, you stopped arguing with reality.
That's right.
What happened for you?
My life changed in the most incredible, profound, and crazy ways. Not just in terms of Fiji. I met my partner in a bar in London that led me to moving to Australia. And the reason that I couldn't be live is that this weekend we're celebrating 10-year anniversary, and it was just incredible. And but I like to bring back what you said. You don't have to. We're not suggesting that you have to have this, near-death experience in order for life to be crazy, like crazily awesome. And we're not saying that, if you have a suicide experience, then you'll build a multiple 7-figure business like I have. And that's all irrelevant. The point is that wherever you're at in your life now, you can make a decision that your life can be exactly as you choose to create it to be, irrespective of expectations, irrespective of the judgments that other people might have on you, that you may have on yourself. And this is why I wanted to do this show, because I love what you do. You make a decision every single day, and that's such a beautiful premise and philosophy. And I just want to inspire people that whatever my story is for me is incredible, but now's the time to write your own story based upon the decision that you make today.
Awesome. Oh my God, I loved it. Crazy awesome starts where you are. It doesn't have to wait another second. It starts where you are.
It's a decision, right?
you know, for people who don't know that belief systems are nothing more than decisions we made at a time we don't even remember. For people who've never gone on this path, so they don't know that the beliefs that they hold about themselves
Mm.
are choices.
Mm.
So we tried to mitigate that. We tried to make it easier. And that's why the book is Make It a Great Day. The
Mm.
choice is yours. And so we will continue to publish volumes of this as people submit stories to us. The bottom line is, for everyone watching,
Mm.
what if you could decide? What if your life was up to you to choose? What if you really could simply choose that it was beautiful? And I'm going to say that beautiful does not mean it's not messy,
Mm.
right?
Perfectly imperfect.
Yeah. Um, there's somebody who said that done is better than perfect. And I'm like, nah, nah, nah. The brain will not accept better than perfect. The
Mm.
brain knows that perfect is perfect and nothing is better than that. So here's what I invite you guys to do. Whatever you have done up until this moment, just judge that as good enough.
Mm.
And that any action you take is perfect because it's what you did.
Mm.
So good enough and perfect are past tense. They're based on what you did, what you chose.
Mm.
It was good enough. Oh, hey, Mark, you don't know me. So I'm going to just share with you. Here's my philosophy on life. Do you know why you do what you do? Why you've done what you did back when it wasn't perfect, back when it wasn't good? Why did you do that? Isn't that the
Right.
question we all dread?
Mm. Yeah.
There's an answer for it.
What is it?
Did what you did, and everyone does what they does, whether it's us or whether it's our kids,
Mm.
because one reason and one reason only. It seemed like a good idea at the time.
Mm.
That's it, people. Now you don't have to ask your teenagers why they did anything.
Mm.
You
It's
already
true.
know. It seemed like a good idea to them at the time.
Mm.
You could ask them, what did you learn?
Mm.
And in that moment, you go from shame and blame to connection.
Mm. Beautiful. Wow.
And yeah, we like that one.
I do like that one. It's true. It's really true. It's awesome. It's awesome. And, in the same vein, when I think about what led to my suicide attempt, it was internal conversation and reflections about who I am and what I think I am, or who I should be or who I shouldn't be, or what I've done wrong or what I should do right. It was, isn't it funny how we make a literally a life um, decision on this conversation that is just fabricated from nowhere, and it's just meaningless and nothing, and it's just it's a non-conversation that we make decisions on, right?
Okay.
And so that's exactly what we're saying. If we focus on every single day, just forget the non-conversations, forget how we judge ourselves. Let's just enjoy it, embrace it, and live it. And your life can change in any direction, and embrace the craziness of what might come if you don't have this forever internal battle with yourself about nonsense. And I won't swear, but just nonsense rubbish, right?
Wait, okay, so you don't know this about me. I'm actually a mediator by training. I'm a transformative mediator. I can do court ordered mediation.
That doesn't
And
surprise
and the only mediation I do, I
me.
mediate the conversation that goes on behind your eyes and between your ears.
Incredible.
This is where life is lived. And if you don't get control of this, you end up in Shouldville. And this
Mm.
was one of the first products I ever created. It's called Leaving Shouldville. So
Mm.
anybody on this call who wants the Leaving Shouldville postcard, you can send a post. Mark, where do people go if they want to connect with you? Because Leaving Shouldville, they can find anywhere. But where do people go if they want to connect with you? I know I've got links I could probably put in there, but you've
Mm,
got a tribe.
mm. So
How
I
do they
have a
find you?
Yeah, so I have a website which is markbowness.com.au. Being an Aussie, so markbowness, BOWNESS.com.au.
Don't worry, guys. I'll translate Aussie for you.
Thank you. And on Facebook, my community, webuildtribes.com. Oh, sorry, no, We Build Tribes on Facebook. So if you head to Facebook, just type in We Build Tribes, you'll find us 33,000 people. And it's just a bunch of amazing people that really want to make a difference in the world. So it's a great positive community.
Well, I have to agree with that because I just joined it when you said, when we met, and we haven't met, but when we started communicating via social media, and you said, yes, you'd figure it out, we'd figure it out, we'd get this recording done. I went, of course, and found you online. So I found We Build Tribes, and oh my God, I mean, for the Make It a Great Day movement, for what I want to change in the world, to go from 800,000 people taking their own lives, which is one every 40 seconds. And according to the World Health Organization, for every adult who dies by suicide, another 20 attempt. So now we're at one every 2 seconds.
Mm.
And that was before COVID.
Mm.
So I'm on a mission to shift that whole conversation. And when I connected with We Build Tribes, I'm like, this is what I need. I need a tribe. I'm just one person. I am the mother of a teen suicide attempt survivor. I am somebody who's slightly crazy enough to think that I can take what I've learned as far as healing arts and sales skills and human resources and turn it into something that might help people pause just long enough to believe that there's another possible outcome. Because all that suicide is the decision that says that dying is the best idea at the time. And if we can create a movement where there's these other ideas, these other possibilities, then people don't have to learn how to talk themselves off a ledge. They'll never walk to the ledge.
Mm.
And that's the mission I'm on. And Mark, what you're doing with building tribes, I just embrace wholeheartedly. I intend to build a tribe within your community of
Awesome.
people who want to be advocates for themselves first, so that they can be better advocates for others.
Beautiful. Awesome. Well, one very quick thing, because you said about your work that you might help people to pause. And I just want to reframe that and say that you do help people to pause. So in this moment, you've really helped me to think so much, even more about what I've been through and what I've experienced. And you've helped me to think about it in a different way. I know that everybody watching this right now will be nodding their head, agreeing with me that you do help people to pause. So I want to honor that and thank you for that. And I'd also like to invite you on my podcast. So I have a podcast and I'd love to set that up, and we'll talk about your community and the importance of your work. So I'd love to have you on my show too.
Well, thank you. Um, wow. Thank you. So, for everyone watching this, welcome to the show. In this case, it's Teaspoons, TSPS. It only takes a little bit of a change to change everything. Mary Poppins said a spoonful of sugar helps the medicine go down. So we're talking teaspoons, just tiny changes. What if it was okay to be you?
Mm.
What if everything you've done so far was good enough? And what if everyone you worked with were the right people for you to work with to this moment? And the moment you accept yourself as being the right person for the job, that the people around you will also step up. It all depends on what you choose. And that's why the movement is Make It a Great Day. The choice is yours. So, Mark, thank you for making the choice to be on our show and making the choice to embrace life when you woke up.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been an incredible opportunity. And again, I love your work and honor you for who you are.
Mwah.
Thank you so much.